All right, I think we're good to start.
Hi, everyone who is watching. Thank you so much for coming. Um, this presentation will be about coping with mental health. We will open for questions at the end of the presentation if you have any question. My name is Al-Harith Al-Hinai, and I am a mental health and wellness peer educator with counseling and psychological services.
And I'm Caitlin Johnson. I'm also a peer mentor for TAPS.
So in today's presentation, we will focus on the most common mental health illness among college students, anxiety and depression. We will go through some statistics first. Then we will talk about anxiety and how to reduce it, depression in college and ways to help people with depression.
All right, so it's really easy for when you're in college, it's really easy to feel like you're the only one who's struggling. And it's really easy to feel like everybody around you has everything under control and they're not struggling with anything and everything is perfect for them. But that's not the reality. In reality, 1 in 10 college students suffer from anxiety, and 1 in 10 college students suffer from depression. So if you are in a classroom of, let's say, 30 kids, there are at least 2 other kids in there that are also going through the same thing that you are, also feeling the same way. So it's just really nice to remind yourself that you're not the only one. On top of that, 60% of college students meet the criteria for at least one mental health issue, whether that be anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, an eating disorder. These are all things that affect college students' day-to-day lives, and 60% of college students meet this criteria, which is over half. So a good majority of students have something going on. So it's just really nice to remember that you are never alone in what's happening, and you are surrounded by people who are going through the same thing. The first one we're going to talk about is anxiety, and anxiety looks different for everybody. It's like the feeling of panic or nervousness. It's your body's response to stress or a stress-related experience. So giving a presentation in front of a class, going up and talking to your professor, raising your hand in the lecture hall class, things like that. Anxiety can make them a lot more nerve-wracking than they do for other people. It activates the fight or flight instinct, which makes that panic set in, that fear, and that adrenaline. It's what makes it kick in. And that's why your heart rate will increase, or you'll feel really restless. You'll be bouncing your leg all class because you know you have to talk to your professor after. And then it also affects other things outside of just that situation. So like, let's say you had a really anxious day, or you have a really big paper coming up, etc. You might have difficulty falling asleep or even staying asleep. And then you also will have a strong desire to avoid things that create that feeling. So let's say that you really have a question you want to ask in class, but in the thought of raising your hand and asking a question in front of other people or talking to your professor makes you really, really nervous, and it makes you feel very anxious, like you're going to throw up. You're not going to want to do it. You're going to want to maybe email him later, or you're going to want to just give up on the question completely. And this looks different for everybody. Obviously, it's a spectrum of intensities. It's different habits. It affects everybody differently. So what you might classify as anxiety for yourself may not be what somebody else classifies for their anxiety. And then there are certain ways to help reduce this and the effects of it. Obviously, you cannot completely get rid of this. It's something that you learn to cope with, ease it, overcome it, and you can say in a sense. And then here are 3 things that can help reduce the effects of it in your day-to-day life and long-term. A lot of doctors say that it's really good to never avoid but approach the situations, because avoidance worsens anxiety over time. Let's say you have a really big paper coming up and you have no idea what you're going to write for it. And the thought of opening your laptop and starting to type it makes your heart rate increase, makes you panic, makes you have a panic attack. So you put it off until the night before it's due, and then you can't get it done because you put it all off until the night before it was due and you don't know how to do it. And then you end up getting a bad grade or something along those lines. It's just over time, avoiding the situation makes it worse or makes the effects more extreme in the long run. So it's really good to dip your toes in or ease yourself into it. So let's say you're really behind in a class and you feel like you can't really get back up from it, and that feeling dreads you and gives you a lot of anxiety. A really good idea is to email your professors if you are behind and potentially talk options with them, or just try just to see what your options are. Or let's say the thought of like meeting new people on campus makes you really, really anxious. So, just try to, sit near somebody, compliment somebody's outfit, uh, just like smile at somebody when you're walking past them. Little things like that will help you overall boost your confidence over time. Another thing is practicing self-care, and self-care looks different for everybody, and it's not always the way the media portrays it as taking a bubble bath or painting your nails at night. It's also eating healthy and making sure that you have a well balanced diet and that you are fully nurturing your body. And also sleeping, getting, I believe, 8 hours of sleep is what we're expected to get, but I think 6 to 8 is good. Those things will help fuel your body and make you feel a lot healthier, and it'll also make you feel better mentally. And then also limiting caffeine intake. Drinking a lot of caffeine can make you more anxious, it can make you more jittery, and then overall, it's going to mess with your sleep schedule. And then also taking time for yourself. So reading a chapter of your favorite book before you go to bed, watching an episode of TV in between classes because they're stressful classes, stuff like that. And then take advantage of resources that are given to you on campus, or resources that are available to you outside of campus. There's always resources available somewhere. Especially on campus, we have academic advisors, and their whole job is to help you succeed, answer your questions, talk to you, figure things out. It's really easy to reach out to them. Also, mentors. We have our peer mentors, the mental health and wellness peer mentors. We do group sessions too. We also have career mentors through career services that can help with things like that. And then also the CAP services, therapy, counseling. Those things are really good to reach out to. And then if possible, and if there aren't any boundaries preventing you from doing so, reaching out to a family doctor to discuss things as well is always really good. And it's a good step if you deem it to be necessary.
So depression, in a very basic definition, is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest for at least 2 weeks or longer. But students get depressed from time to time for different reasons. Now, what are the reasons for depression among college students? So college students face challenges, pressures, and anxieties that can cause them to feel overwhelmed. They may feel homesick for being away from home. They start facing challenges with how much they sleep, the food they choose to eat, and how much time they spend on the activities they like to do. It's literally a new environment for the student. Some of them find their way out and keep their lives going, but some struggle to adapt to this new environment and get depressed about it, and signs of depression start to appear with them. So some signs and symptoms of depression, as shown, are feelings of sadness. The feelings of sadness and hopelessness could be because of a difficult class, not getting good grades, or having some kind of relationship issues. Loss of interest or pleasure. Loss of interest in activities, mostly all of the normal activities. For example, not having the interest to meet friends for a person who used to like to stay with friends, or not having the interest to go to the gym, for example. Sleep disturbances. Sleep disturbances like insomnia or sleeping too much. Tiredness and lack of energy to keep things like assignments. For example, even like assignments is small tasks, but for depressed people, it takes a long time to do these small tasks. Extreme weight loss because of not having the interest for eat anything, or sometimes even a weight gain. ways to help treat depression. So whether you are dealing with depression or you know someone who is dealing with depression, there's always a way to treat depression. It starts with you reaching out for help. At school, for example, there are different resources that help people with depression and other mental health issues. You can start with your advisor if the issue has to do with your classes, or use the counseling services for other issues. Also, it's always a good option to talk to a classmate or a friend you trust to help you with any issue. Also look at your sleeping and eating habits. The problem could be because you do not get enough sleep, or you sleep too much, or maybe you are eating, or maybe your eating choices are not healthy. Manage stress. So it's important to manage stress and know the stressors. Exercise helps to manage stress. You can manage stress by writing the things that stress you and make a plan to work with them right away, and always stay and think in a positive way. Also strengthen social connections. It's important to create good support systems. Surround yourself with supportive people who will always be there for you.
Alrighty, and that's all we have for the presentation. Thank you so much for those who are listening live right now, or if you are watching this later, thank you so much for spending some time to learn a little bit. Hopefully you learned something from this. If you have any questions or any resources and you're watching this in the video form, feel free to reach out to CAPS. I have their address provided. It's on the second floor of the University Center. There's also the phone number provided. But if you are having a crisis or it is outside of office hours and you need somebody to talk to, we have a crisis line listed as well, and then an email given as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching.